Welcome, heroes! It's been quite a while, hasn't it? Well, I've been busy. I've been making this little system, which I'm going to show you guys today, all of the features and what you can expect from it. And yes, this will be a prefab that will be purchasable on my booth, Gumroad, whatever it's going to be on. This project that I'm working on, by the way, is a pre-release of the product as a whole, which I'll get onto that more towards the end. Oh, and by the way, the map that we're in has been used for the Aether Roleplays map. They've been a big help in terms of like doing a bunch of QA on making sure like all the bugs are getting worked out over time. So I am going to make like a version of this map available so people can be able to mess with it in the future. This is going to open so many doors, you have no idea. So what I've been working on, the Hero Script system, is essentially a base framework which will allow all of my prefabs to be able to communicate with each other and have ways to potentially communicate with prefabs outside of it. The essential goal I was going for was to be able to have as like much function as like a Gmod's Dark RP or GTA roleplay server or whatnot. And the problem is if you're just shoving prefabs into a world, eventually they'll conflict with each other because they're all competing against the network. They don't have any means to regulate how they're pushing data. They don't have common variables to necessarily pull from. So I'm trying to solve that with the Hero Script system. It has all sorts of modules that each do their own individual function, things like teleporting players, spawning items, controlling like certain effects that doesn't require scripts, which is going to be a big factor, and just like ways to have player driven data, save the data related to it, having ways for all of them to communicate with each other. So why don't I go ahead and break it down, first starting with all of the different modules that can be expected from the system. Now, to start off, there are two major modules I want to talk about, which will be within like the initial release, which I will go over how that's going to work at the end. But the first one is the ability system. Now, what the ability system allows you to do is trigger all of these different effects, first using an input, which the input is going to be anything that would kick off an event, which could be like a trigger click, which would could call a menu, or it could be the dropping of an item, which you can then take to like put in your inventory, or like clicking of your hand, which you can have a whole chain of effects, which then could chain more effects. So abilities is essentially a more configuration-based scripting system that allows you to have all of these things communicate with each other without them knowing what each of the individual things is by simply configuring them. So you have the input, as long as it meets a prerequisite, which is the second thing, it triggers events. Now, the ability system is an optional module. If you would just like to use all of the modules that are in the system as just like a library, you can call upon them with just your own scripts and you can just toss out abilities entirely. But if you would want to use something where you don't necessarily have to do scripting and configure it more like you would like a particle system or some other configuration that you would normally do on a prefab, then this might be a better option for you. But it could do all sorts of things. This is like all of the different magic that I have in this world. But this magic is not like core system. It's doing many things. A lot of the effects, though, like this, deals with the next module. So the next module is the item spawn module, which this does a lot of different things. From, of course, spawning items, but also having ways for all of these items to interact with each other. And also having ways for these items to interact with the system. Goodbye. They have all sorts of different effects that you can do in conjunction with the abilities, but for the most part, the object or item spawn system allows you to spawn these items to be able to utilize them. And on top of having like different effects like consumable items, you can also have different things that you can do with the items that you have actually spawned. And I added a way so you can optionally make them two-handed. On top of making things able to be two-handed, you could also optionally make them combinable, which this is very useful if you're using things like a resource or money or anything where players can gather and should be able to stack them together. Which, speaking of stacking, you can also make items able to stack on other items, and they will just simply follow them. Oh, follow them. There we go. You got to make sure it actually collides when you drop it. So with that, you can have items that follow items, and these all work in sync perfectly. So other people will see you holding the item and can even grab the item off the stacked item at their leisure. But also, on top of that, you can have items that you can have attach to your own person. So you can specify which bones that this item can actually attach to, and if you drop it within the range of that bone, it will then follow the bone. Now, all the items you can spawn from a menu if you wish. The menu, which I'll talk about next, is optional, but there's many things that you can do if you do have like some kind of item spawning menu to be able to just spawn the items as you need. Now, you have 3 types of items, and I have it in this way for optimization purposes. The items that we were interacting with before were the interactables, the ones that you can pick up, have save data on them, and whatnot. So if I were to have, like, this guy, I can manipulate him, I can eat him, I can put him back in my inventory, and then I can spawn him right back out. That one, see? It has a bite in it. If I bite it again, put it away, grab it back out. This is through an inventory, which I'll talk about as well. It remembers the information that was on it, and there's ways you can actually store data on all of these items. Interactables essentially allows you to manipulate them, whatever, and there's only so many you can have in the world because of like the networking required for it. However, if an item were to spawn beyond it, this is a thing I can't grab here, because what this is a placeable. Placeables are things that you can essentially have in the world that are pretty much just like locked. They're just there. There's also ways to use this for optimization purposes, such as you can have items which become placeables if nobody's around, so that way they're not eating up the interactable queue. And you could also have it also just delete them. It depends upon what kind of items you want. So if you have like somebody has a sword, they put it down on a table, nobody's around, it just becomes a placeable, doesn't use a spawn queue, and that thing is always there. And when they come back and they get close to it, it'll convert back. You could also just have items that you would want to spawn that you want to just be able to place in the world, and just add like some kind of barrier or obstacle in the world. This is great if you like have a roleplay world and you wanted to add like craters or doors or some other kind of effect that is ongoing to help like create the ongoing atmosphere. So these things would spawn, they lock there, nobody can interact with it, and even has colliders. See, I can't move forward. And the last type, which you saw before, is temporary. So these are items that are intended to be deleted. They don't actually care about their data. Placeables essentially store it all in one place, and then they assign it as needed when they're called upon to be something else. But a temporary, they don't really have any data that necessarily matters. You can have ways to utilize data with them, but they're intended to essentially spawn and disappear. Really great for particle effects. And all of these items essentially have ways of interacting with each other, but you also have ways where you can delete items or potentially copy them. There's many things that you can do with these items. Another module I wanted to cover, which you've seen me use a little bit, is the player menu. This is also optional, and I'm trying to create more and more ways so people could utilize menus that aren't necessarily my system to be able to have all of these effects, but a different way for menus to interact with them. So in my menu, I have different ways that you can have like essentially these upper tabs. These upper tabs essentially use a permissions or roles to be able to allow you to make sure that only certain people have access to it. So in the admins, for example, I have a thing called roles, where you can assign people specific roles to be able to give them access or no access to a particular menu item. So in this case, I can toggle on and off the debug section and can give me my roles back or whatever. You could also make it so there's ways to automatically assign roles, which I'll get to that in another module. What you have is essentially each module has its own menus that work within this player menu that automatically assign themselves when you set up the modules that you wish to use. So if you have the dice roller, it has the optional dice roller menu if you actually have the player menu in your system. Essentially, you have alternate ways that you can actually spawn it if you don't want to spawn it the way this is doing. You could use abilities to spawn the menu if you wish. You can make like a proximity area which you go into and ability triggers it and spawns your menu. A lot of different things that you can actually do with this, and then like customize it to how you want to look and all of that good stuff. There is a way that I have to save data, which uses the Data Archiver module. This module allows you to have 4 different ways that you can save data. You can save it through VRChat's persistence. You can save it through string loading. You can save it or utilize save data through a URL injection. Essentially, you have a URL that has a string, pretty much like the string loader, that you can have as like an automatic data that comes in when you first load, or it's a good way to like have an admin list. So you would have like a URL with a list of the data that is assigned for admins, and then an admin would always have that title in which you can modify it later. It has a lot of good uses. Also, there's ways that you could potentially utilize it for like holidays to have like preset stuff, because by the way, data is not just on the player, it's also on all of the items that are in the world. You can save their specific positions if you wish. And then the final way that you can have data is essentially by instance. I have it so whenever you leave, and as long as there's somebody in the instance, it will remember all the things that you had in that instance. So as an example, we have all of these items that are here. I also have items in my inventory, which I'll cover later. As you can see where it is, I could go data control, save my world data, and then I could also go to, I have player saves and save my data, which I believe it's already set up this way. And then if I rejoin the world, loading, as you can see, that shield is there. Those items are down there. And if I go to my inventory is there. And on top of that, you have player save slots like you might have seen before there. So I can load this one. There's nothing in this save slot, but I can go back to my other save slot, and there we go. I have all of that data that was a part of my personal character's stuff. So you can use this as a way to have like players in a role play having all their own inventory, or if you have like specific roles that you want to ensure or save, no matter what type of instance it is, you can utilize it for that. There's a lot of applications that you can utilize for how you do these 4 different types of data saves. On top of that, I have other modules which will hook into things that like either VRChat does itself or other things that I need to in the future, like the player haptics, player mods, and the player audio system. So an example of the player mods that I have is I have a way where you can do a spell and it changes your speed, or I can have another way you could do that spell and it changes your gravity. Of course, these are abilities, not spells, but you can have different ways to affect them. And I also have a way of like on a per tick, my hand buzzes when it's nearby my head. You can't really see it. But on top of that, I also have in the system, under like the first menu or whatnot, I have this whisper yell system, which essentially changes your voice to essentially a preset, which you can use to like have a way of being able to shout across the world or whisper at a close distance. And also I have a way to do essentially a voice channel system. So in this case, you would go to different channels, and whoever is on that channel, you would hear as if they're global. And since this one is under the DM channel, I can add other people in the world to this channel, and then they would be with me. And then here, the mute locally while in the channel, while this is checked on, what will happen is the people around you won't be able to hear you while you're in that channel, but you can also uncheck it so that way you could actually talk to people locally to you, almost kind of like muting and unmuting while in Discord. But on top of that, because like you can set up a bunch of presets and you can have these change just by abilities or your own scripts, you can have a way to dynamically make it so that your voice changes to all of those around you based upon the VR chat's player voices, just triggered by however you want it to work, and everybody around you would have the reflective same volume. So if you wanted to, you can have something where you walk into a room and you're just silent and nobody else can hear you. Or maybe like you step onto a stage and now your voice is global. A lot of different ways that you can utilize that, or have like your haptics go off when you go somewhere, or you go faster down a tunnel, all sorts of different applications. In the same vein, related to the DM Tools module, which is the one specifically around this particular menu, you also have access to a request for a DM, which will pop up a notification, and that gives you a little thing here where you can go to it, you can clear it, or you can go straight to the page, and it will take you to the DM Tools page, at which point you can then click and teleport to the person, and it will give you a notification which appears above your head that the person has been covered by the DM. You could also change the name however you want to, like guard, security, or however you like, so that way you can have a way to do some form of security for your role player club. And to go in further about the notifier, I have as well a messenger as part of the, if you use the player menu, that utilizes the notifier as a way to like send messages. So I can like say hi, targeting all people, say hi, it says hi. I have a way to strip it so it doesn't say the name, which you can use this as a way, like as a DM in a role play, to like say a message as people are coming towards you. You have abilities which can trigger things like this if you like, to have like for adventure maps or some kind of thing, where like you go through a doorway and it says this message to all or people who are near the like local player, or to very specific players. There's different ways that you can have the notifications go out to different people. But there's a lot of different ways that you can trigger it. You can utilize the scripts and the library, or of course, as I mentioned before, the abilities. Also, along with the teleporter, I made this little thing here using abilities that has like an on trigger enter, and then it enables you to do the teleportation, at which point if you do a gesture move, it will have you teleport to a place. Up was essentially that spot, but if I go here and then down, I teleported to another place, which of course I can essentially just keep teleporting depending upon where I want to go. Well, that was certainly quite a lot of features. That's just to go to show that this whole Hero Script project is going to offer quite a lot. Now, while I was saying that I was going to go over all of it, I honestly think in one video would be a little much. There's other things like ways that you can like latch onto events while not even using the ability system to be able to have your own scripts trigger off of it. There's other ways of like the setup and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make more videos to display each like individual module or collection of modules in like to give them more detail, and also give some Unity kind of display. And also I plan to do a live stream, which I'll go over more detail and get some feedback going back and forth with the people in the audience. Now, the plan is, what we're going to do is, this is a pre-release, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And what that means is that essentially what we're releasing here is all of the features in one bundle at a cheaper price to begin with, while I continue to iron out any bugs that come about, or add any features that should be within this initial release. This initial release is essentially building out the roleplay / club module set. And the way that I'm seeing how this will go is that there's going to be the core that you can buy, which will have most of like the basic features in it. There's going to be bundles, which will have a bunch of modules pulled together, And then there's going to be individual modules that you can buy individually. So that way, if you have like your own idea, but you don't necessarily want to buy all the stuff, then, you know, you don't necessarily have to. And as time goes along, I'll get more feedback from you guys and see how best to do this. With that, I plan to do more modules in the future. I have a plan upcoming for a combat set, which is going to add a bunch of things like you would expect to see in Udon Boxing or Dragoon Ball Z. I have plans for a survival set, which is going to be like effects and crafting mechanics and things like that you expect in survival games. I also have another planned set for NPCs, and that's so far where I'm thinking at this point. As time goes on, I'll continue to add more sets as like I'm trying to give more functionality to all of the different things that the system can reach out and build towards. But also, I hope to have engagement with the community, because the thing is, the way I want this to run is that if you want to build your own modules or prefab sets or way you have things set up, or your own events, inputs, abilities, essentially I want it so you can go ahead and freely be able to sell it. Just don't include like my system in the base set, so that way everybody benefits. And hopefully this project can continue to grow and become something amazing within VR chat. Well, anyways, guys, do be sure to check out the description below. That's going to have a link to my VR chat group, which I highly encourage joining, because I'm planning to do future testings within worlds that I am creating, and I will be sending out invite links to whoever's in the group. So if you want to join me, that's a good place to do so, or any kind of meetups that we plan to do. Also, if you ever have like questions or whatnot, a good place is my Discord, which will also be in the description below. With it there, I'll have an area for the hero script system and all of the other things that I'm doing. And then lastly, if you have any bugs or feature requests that you would like of the system, I also have a canny in the description below, which will be the best way that I'm going to try and organize all of that. So be sure to use that for feature requests and bug reports, and be sure to include as much detail as possible so everything can be looked over and either found or made. Anyways, guys, that does it for today. I know it was a long video, but hopefully things will go up from here. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Take care and goodbye.